Namaskar viewers, hello and welcome to Sansad TV. I am Tina Jha, you're watching Perspective. On the show today, we talk about moonlighting, the buzzword of late in the Indian tech industry and which has become a subject matter of greater debate. To begin with, what's moonlighting? Well, it is the practice of taking up a second job during or outside the working hours of the primary employment. So why is it in the news once again? Global tech major IBM, which employs over 1 lakh people in India, has termed moonlighting an unethical practice. IBM's managing director for India and South Asia has said, and I quote, "Notwithstanding what people can do in the rest of their time, it is not ethically right to do moonlighting." IT giant Infosys has also warned its employees against dual employment, saying it could lead to termination. Wipro Chairman Rishad Premji had said a few days ago that such behavior by employees is simple, plain cheating. The big question is, what is propelling the culture of moonlighting? Why is it deemed unethical? What does the law say about dual employment in India? All this and much more in perspective today with distinguished panelists who are joining us on the program virtually. Pleased to welcome Mr. Shankar Agarwal, former Secretary, Ministry of Labour and Employment, Government of India. Mr. Sandeep Agarwal, Chairman, Industry Affairs Committee, PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and Mr. Harpreet Singh Saluja, Founder, President, Nascent Information Technology Employees Senate. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me on the program today. Mr. Saluja, so let's begin the program today with your thoughts on the practice of moonlighting, something which has, become a subject matter of great debate in the Indian IT tech industry.
I'll go back to history. And Mr. Narendra Patni recruited Mr. Narayan Murthy to head the software division of Patni Computer in 1977. And Mr. Narayan Murthy then built a software team of 6 people who went on and later became the founder people of the Infosys. And in 1979, the Patni Computer System signed up one of the largest offshore software deal with a US company called Databasics Corporation. And in 1981, Infosys was founded. So Mr. Murthy resigned from PCS after almost an year. And eventually, Databasics Corporation became the first customer of Infosys. So foremost thing over here is this. So would it be considered as moonlighting by Infosys? Or is the company afraid that new employees may repeat the history over here? And being a IT union of, employees of IT sector, we strongly condemn the threatening email sent by the Infosys to the employees. Because in feasibly speaking about this, the IT employees are working for 10 to 12 hours daily without any overtime benefits. And after working for 12 to 14 hours of day, would there be any energy or time left for an employee to work on second employment? And apart from this, already government has linked the PF account with the Aadhaar card, and every employee has a unique account number in this. So there is no way that one employee working for one organization at the same time will be working for another organization. It is not possible, because once the other company will try to submit the employees provident fund, the employees will be caught there only. The system does not allow two companies to submit the provident fund of one employee in 1 month.
Okay,
So
but
feasibly it is not possible.
certainly.
And apart from that,
what you are saying, Mr. Saluja, is of course the larger question of the feasibility and the impact that dual employment can have on people's mental health. That's a larger debate. But the question here is, it is a growing trend. There have been cases wherein employees have been found to be working for more than one, in fact, more than 7 companies. There's been a case recently. So let me go across to Mr. Agarwal and understand why this growing trend, number one, Mr. Agarwal, and the fact that what are the biggest concerns of the industry. So if I, as an employee, have the skill, I am working diligently for, my primary employer for 8 hours a day. And after that, beyond that, if I want to, give my services to some other company, why not?
See, the industry as such has no issues with whatever is within the law. The problem, what we think right now is that certain IT companies have come out with these kind of mails that they have come out heavily against the employees for this. The reason it seems that the people are today working from home and there are no good checks and balances. to make sure that the employees are actually working during those hours and giving their time to the work of the company. So the productivity they feel has started coming down. Whereas normally it should be that work from home should actually increase the productivity, because more the employee is not traveling to and fro to the work, and so they are fresher and they have more and better time to address the working rather than traveling and wasting their time in that. So therefore, work from home culture should actually end up improving the um, efficiency of a staff. But what we feel is that the IT industry is feeling that, instead of improving the productivity is going down.
Mm-hmm.
No, that is not the only reason. Moonlighting is not the only reason that productivity is going down. It is possible that once you are at home, you are satisfied and you are not ready to work that much harder than when you are in a office environment, when everybody else is working. So you are able to concentrate on your work better.
Okay, so this may
You are
not be the only
not
factor.
having very, yeah.
Certainly, you're right. This may not be the only factor, but it could be a bigger factor that, you know, employees are actually tied up between more than two companies, and perhaps that's why the productivity
Yes.
is being impacted.
So that is the point that people are making, that it seems that people are moonlighting. They are taking up 2 jobs at a time, and as we have seen, somebody has taken 7 jobs at a time. So therefore, companies are afraid that not only they will lose their data. You have very well, Saluja ji has very well referred to the Infosys case. That is what people are afraid of. They may not say it in words, but that is what they are afraid of. That their data may be compromised, their information may be compromised.
okay,
If
so
somebody has done in the past, that does not make somebody else eligible to do it today.
let me go across to Mr. Shankar Agarwal. So, you know, the debate is around the ethics of it, Mr. Agarwal. But before we get into that debate, let's address the legal aspect. What do the Indian laws say about dual employment and this term of moonlighting?
See, as far as the labor laws are concerned, there is no bar on taking up more than one job. However, nobody is allowed to work for more than 8 hours in an organization. So, in a company, you can work for 8 hours, and thereafter, if you are working for longer than 8 hours, then you are entitled to get some kind of a compensation in terms of overtime and things like that. Now, second, so law position is that yes, if somebody wants to take up another job after the office hours, he can do so, except in government job, because in government job there is a contract which says that you are 24/7 working for the company.
Yes.
Like when we joined the service, we entered into an agreement, and then it said that a contract said that we will be at the disposal of the government, state government or the central government 24/7. So that's the rule position. Now coming to ethics, you see the standard of ethics change with time. Maybe whatever was the ethics 50 years ago, those standards may not be applicable today. And secondly, ethics depend upon the kind of industry, the kind of employment one is in. Like if you take the service industry like Swiggy or delivery kind of services, I think there is no bar, and if a person can physically take up more than one job, it can be allowed. But when we talk about IT, there are two issues. One, that after working in an organization, if I work in a similar kind of an organization after the office hour, it may result in conflict of interest, and that is not permissible, and that is unethical, number one. Number two, as somebody said, that after office hours, after working for 8 hours, if you do not have that kind of an efficiency level or the productivity level, surely it will get reflected. However, this compromise in the efficiency or the productivity can be evaluated. There are large number of methods, and on the basis of that, you can take action against the employee. So I personally feel that every industry, every organization has to set its own policy depending upon the kind of work they are discharging, the kind of IT they are doing, and the kind of employee they have got. And maybe within the same organization, for class 3, class 4 employee, you can allow moonlighting, but maybe for class 1, class 2 employee, there may be some kind of a restriction.
Okay.
I personally feel that even if the moonlighting is being allowed, it should be done on a piece of paper and very transparent. Then everybody who is taking up more than one job, he should declare upfront that I'm going to take one more job. And if it is permissible, the employer may say, yes, okay, go ahead. We are subject to the following condition, and that can be taken care of.
Absolutely. There are some companies, Mr. Sandeep Agarwal, which are allowing it. For example, I was reading Swiggy allows employees to take up more than one employment after working hours, of course, subject to internal approval. That's the most important aspect. But 2 points that very quickly I want you to address. For firms where there is no threat of data breach or leakage of any sort of information, can such policies be adopted with prior approval, of course? And point number 2, can ethical moonlighting be adapted? This is something that's been spoken about, that in IT firms where employees are working on multiple projects, can skilled manpower be put to use for more than one project and then they can be paid accordingly? What do you think?
So basically, we are talking about that we pay by the work done rather than by the hour. So companies can do that, and that is, that is something which is very much possible, that companies can start paying on the amount of work done on the results basis. So, but then the problem comes is that what about the leaves? What about the maternity leaves? What about the holidays? What about somebody getting sick? Now, all the sick pays, all these pays will come from the main company. So the companies will say, very well, now let us ask you to work part-time with us. So you will be getting by the hour, whatever work you do, you will get the, and you will make sure that there is no conflict of interest. So if that happens, I think both sides will be very, very happy. And that is why Swiggy and companies like Uber made their money. Uber made their money by moonlighting.
Yes.
Because the employees, various employees, while they were traveling back home from their offices, they used their cars as Uber and provided employment to themselves also and money for themselves, and they were working. So that was a kind of moonlighting. Swiggy, obviously, if you are physically going somewhere and delivering goods, instead of only for Swiggy, you are also delivering for somebody else. I don't know how much Swiggy will be okay with that. But even if it is okay, till the person delivers within the time frame given to him, there should not be any problem, because again, they are paying by the work done. But IT companies are not exactly paying by the work done. They are paying for the time the person is providing to the company.
Yes.
So therefore, we believe that moonlighting is going to take companies to go for the part-time employees rather than full-time employees. And that will be detrimental in the long term to the employees themselves. That is what I believe.
But I think, the manner in which the trend has picked up, Mr. Saluja, especially during the pandemic, we've seen a manifold rise in cases of moonlighting that have actually come to surface. Many, of course, remain a secret. But the fact that this has taken the Indian IT sector by storm is something, and that's why perhaps we are debating is, the question here is on whether this is going to become the future, whether the employees who are now used to working from home and the pandemic has clearly propelled this trend. Do you think this is going to become the future policy and companies will have to, at one point of time, adapt to such a practice, albeit with certain conditions?
See, ideally, they should adapt to this because Honorable PM Narendra Modi ji also said recently that the future of work is flexibility of time, flexibility of workplace as well. So the sooner or later, the companies needs to adapt to this kind of work environment as well. And just by quoting the clauses in the offer letter or the employment contract, it is not going to help the organization. See, majorly a lot of clauses that are mentioned in the offer letter of IT sector employees, they are not governed by any kind of law. I had a meeting with Honorable Labour Minister Shri Bhupendra Yadav ji as well 2 months back, and I have also submitted a request that the kind of clauses that are being mentioned in the IT sector employment letters, they are not being reviewed by the government at all. See, for instance, non-compete clause as well. So the Infosys offer letter only includes, they are mentioning for BPM, they are mentioning 9 organizations. After leaving Infosys for 12 months, the employee cannot work for 12 organizations. And in core IT, their employment letter mentions that the employee cannot work for 5 different competitors. So it is like in the settled principle of law, there is Indian Contract Act, and under Section 27 of the same Indian Contract Act, it violates. It clearly states that any kind of negative covenant and restriction of trade or pursuing any kind of employment beyond the term of contract is illegal. So sooner or later, the government will take cognizance of such issues, and there needs to be a reform in law as well. And companies should ideally adapt to it, because whatever the employee is doing, as the sir said, that the IT companies are basically working on the work hours pattern and not the task-based pattern. So ideally, if the employee has already given 9 to 12 hours of work to the one organization, if in the free time he wants to pursue any kind of other job, and let's not say it's a job.
Coming back to Mr. Shankar Agarwal and trying to understand the larger aspect, that when you say there is no law that prohibits such a practice, and perhaps there are in fact companies which allow moonlighting subject to internal approval, if companies threaten or in fact they terminate the services of an employee because if he or she is found to be working for more than one company, can that person go to court? And has there ever been a case like that? For example, you said, if I am a government employee, I am a 24/7 government employee. But if I'm working with a private company, I am not a 24/7 representative of that company. So can I have the leverage of having a second employment? Perhaps it can be a freelance job. It can't be a regular employment. It can be a freelance job. But if my services are terminated, can I go to the court?
See, all these things will be determined through the covenants of that employment letter. In the employment letter, there are terms and conditions of the employment. If the employment letter says that you cannot work for another organization, surely it is a violation of the terms and conditions of the contract, and action can be taken against you. But what we are saying, that in a free time, if suppose somebody is taking a 2 hour, 3 hour, 4 hours kind of a job, and if he has taken permission from his employer, surely this can be achieved, this can be done. And many such organizations are allowing that. However, as you are saying, that the labor laws indirectly, or the inherent spirit of those laws, that you cannot take up to full-time. Because if you take full-time job, that means you can be asked to work for 8 hours, and 8 hours, that means 16 hours a day, and that is not feasible. And that's not in the interest of the health and safety of the worker also. So what is being said, that after the office hours in IT company, somebody is taking up some NGO job, is doing some social job, surely he can take up that kind of a thing. But I personally feel that there should be some kind of a permission from the employer, that after office hour, I'm going to take up this kind of job, so that it does not result in conflict of interest. It is not detrimental to the interest of the organization where he is working as a primary employee.
How willing will the companies be in allowing, that's the question again, Mr. Sandeep Agarwal, for companies, especially the IT firms, because they've been raising the issue of data breach. Can this be permissible in the times to come? Can there be efficient checks and balances to ensure that there is no data leakage, there is no compromise on any kind of leakage that they're concerned about, and then it can be permitted subject to prior approval, as Mr. Shankar Agarwal pointed out?
So what we think is that with prior approval, some kind of jobs should be allowed, like Swiggy type of jobs could be allowed to employees who are working in the IT industry. And Uber kind of job can be allowed to people.
But you know, Mr.
But the
Agarwal,
problem
since India
again,
has a lot of skilled manpower in the IT sector, that is where we are shining bright. That is where the efficient workers would want to make more money. And making money isn't that bad, isn't it? So the fact that they would like to, use their skill to the fullest and earn the maximum, shouldn't there be some kind of, loosening of this policy that the firms are now coming with a blanket policy of not allowing moonlighting at all?
no, as I said, that moonlighting in context of data breach and also reduced efficiency is a concern of everybody. We must understand the concern of the employees, because ultimately Indian IT industry is providing jobs to millions of people. And tomorrow, if we start losing our edge, India is going to lose its IT industry. So it is the cause of concern not only to the companies, it is a cause of concern to the employees also, to everybody. So we must ensure that the quality of the product which the companies give is good, and that depends on the concentration level of the employees. So the employees who are working for the company, if they start doing two jobs at a time while they are working from home, nobody can stop them. They can do two jobs from the same computer, but then they can use two computers to do the job. They can just click on the button of the computer once in every few minutes to show that they are available, because most of these IT companies today are just what they are doing is they are seeing that somebody is on the computer by checking the clicks he is doing. So in these kind of situation, I believe there are very few checks which are available right now, and therefore it will not be in interest of the country and the employees themselves to do moonlighting, especially during the working hours. Then when it comes beyond the working hours, then it becomes important that the companies will be then asking for part-time workers. They will say, why we are paying for the hospitalization or other benefits when the person is doing more than one job.
And actually, this issue has been raised with the IT sector at the moment, and that's how it's, made headlines. But the fact that even otherwise, if you take the example of teachers, for example, the doctors, isn't that also, Mr. Saluja, a case of moonlighting? So the doctors working during the day at the hospitals and then in the evenings at their private clinics. Similarly with the teachers, during the day they're employed with full-time schools, that's their primary employment. And then in the evening, they obviously prefer their own students to come for private tuitions. So why not similar policies for these fields as well? Why only restricted to the IT sector?
I was also coming to the same point that when other professionals are, have this kind of liberty, why IT professionals are not being provided? See, Mohandas Pai sir also said this, that moonlighting is no cheating. If company CEO comes and state a statement in public stating that this is cheating, then it does not become cheating like that. But after that, the one thing also I would like to point out over here is, for past 1 decade, you can go through the data, the starting salary of a fresher employee in IT sector has been stagnant. It is between 2 lakhs to 3 lakhs rupees only. Whereas if you'll compare the salaries of CEOs of the IT sector organizations, it has crossed on almost 100%. So few months back only, the company Infosys has hiked the salary of CEO by 44%. And when it comes down to employees, they are restricting every possible means by what the employee can earn money. See, there are no overtime paid by the IT sector companies. It is on record. It is with the data is with also the government. And because no salary slip reflects overtime payment for any IT employee.
Certainly.
If
So
he
there are,
has
of
got
course,
an
disparities
opportunity,
which have led to, how this trend has picked up, especially during the pandemic. But the larger fact here, and which I think all of us have discussed, is that with right checks and balances, perhaps some amount of loosening can happen. And where there is a, suspicion of data breach, there can be adequate checks and balances that can be put back in place. And now things are returning to normalcy. So employees are spending much of their time in their offices. So perhaps some kind of loosening is something that we may see in the future, because if this is going to pick up, and there are companies that allow, in other countries, that allow moonlighting to some extent, whether that can be adopted in India as well is something that we'll all have to wait and see. Thank you once again to all three of you for joining me on this edition of Perspective and sharing your thoughts with us and our viewers. Thank you to you viewers as well for your time. I'll see you same time tomorrow now with a new topic and a different set of panelists. Until then, you take care of yourselves and keep watching Sansad TV.